this is Angela with Park Rose Permaculture. Very clearly in my bedroom and not out in the garden because I'm working on editing videos, and I wanted to preface today's video by saying that I recognize there are some focus issues. My camera really struggles in bright sunny weather, but I encourage you to hang tight. There's good information in this video. Let's get through those little glitches together, and I will work on fixing it in future videos on my end, but there's still good stuff for y'all today, so enjoy. Hello, this is Angela with Park Rose Permaculture. Today I want to talk about training up your cane fruit and what you do with it in the fall. I have 4 different kinds of cane fruit that I would like to examine in this video, so it may be a little bit lengthy. We're going to try and crank through it. Cane fruit requires maintenance in order to get lots of beautiful berries in the spring and summer. It just takes that extra bit of work in the fall, plus you want to give your garden a neat and tidy look. So let's go in under this contorted mulberry and go back here, and I'll show you the first one. You're welcome to go check out some of my older videos where I discuss each of these kinds of fruit on their own in detail. Today I just want to talk about training methods for all 4 of them. So the first one is the blackcap raspberry, which is a native. There are 2 different species and or subspecies depending on how you define it, native to the eastern and western US. I'm crunching underneath all of these thimbleberries and mulberries that I've been pruning. Lots of leaf mulch right now. So this is one plant. It is in a little secluded nook. It's kind of like a special nook in my garden. And you can see here that the blackcap raspberry has this lovely purple stem with this, it will be all the way purple by the time fall comes on. Right now it is transitioning from green to purple, and it has what is called a bloom on it, just like on blueberries. It's like a waxy coating that protects the plant that makes it look white at this time of year. So for training this fruit, I just finished, you can see here I leave 1 or 2, this year it's just 1, main cane that did not fruit this year. And I take it and I carefully, without breaking it, bend it carefully into an arch, and then I tie it to the fence. And all of these side pieces will produce fruit. They will flower and fruit next year. And the fruit that I got this year off of this plant, I removed that whole cane and I chopped it up. So I'm just leaving the new one that came out of the ground. And I think it's really important with blackcaps. Let's step back and see if we can see a little bit better here. It's really important with blackcaps. They're very thorny, so I want to keep them out of the walkway, but also just really want to control them with the bulk of the thorns up and overhead and then tied against a fence. So there's no risk of them brushing into one of us when we go by. And there's no risk of getting tangled in them because they're very, very thorny. And this also will help keep all of the fruit next year within reach. Okay, so that's blackcaps. Let's go on to the next one. We're gonna march this way in the garden. I kind of like the auditory aspect of gardening this time of year because there's so many dry leaves. Let me close this gate. So many dry leaves that I have been putting down for mulch as I'm pruning, and they just make a delightful crunch under the foot. So let's go out this way and look at my golden raspberries. So golden raspberries are an everbearing raspberry. You can see here I have a walkway in the middle and 2 rows. I've talked in the past, golden raspberries, they, like the blackcap raspberry, are floppy. They have a little bit more rigid canes, but they still need to be strung up and keep them organized. And this helps prevent disease spread. It helps keep the fruit off the ground, helps keep me organized in the garden so I know what is a fruiting cane and what is done. So these produce 2 crops a year. Let's go in and look. Ooh, it's a hot afternoon. Okay, going in here and looking. So we have the fall crop right now. You can see they're just starting to really produce. There's these little tiny green ones, and they will produce all the way into October. Beautiful peachy colored raspberry. So obviously I'm not going to cut back and remove these right now because they're fruiting. And these that are fruiting now, I want to leave up, and they will fruit again in the spring. So the ones I've gone in and removed, you can see here, crouched down, I've gone in and removed the brown looking canes and cut them off. And those were ones that fruited last fall and this spring, and they're done. So the ones that came up from the ground this year, they didn't fruit in the spring. They're going to fruit first now in the fall, all the way into October, as you can see here. Hello, little bee. And then they will fruit again in the spring in May and June. And then I will cut them out. So that's how you train your your golden raspberries, because they are an ever-bearing raspberry. Now let's go look at a June-bearing raspberry. Gotta excuse the mess a little bit. The garden is always untidy this time of year. So let's go through here and look past my rain garden, past the kindling rack. And we're now going into the side yard of the garden. And here we have, I talked about it a little bit yesterday, my Amity red raspberries. Really like the variety. Amity, good consistent producer every year, nice disease resistance. These are June bearing. And you can tell from these, nothing on them is fruiting right now. And what I have done is I've removed all of the brown canes that fruited in June, and all of the ones that came up from the ground this year in the spring, they will fruit next June. And so I want to save those. And by training them together on strings against the fence, even though the wind has knocked this one down a little bit, I keep them up and tidy and organized where I want them and out of the way, and I keep the canes off the ground so they don't get trampled. Let's look at the last one. This is my marionberry. Marionberries are just like red raspberries in that they send up primocanes this year, which will become fluorocanes next year, and they will fruit next year. So the ones that fruited this year, I took them all out. In fact, you can see a lot of them over here going to go in the compost. And then the ones that came up out of the ground this year and have not yet flowered, I have trained to my wire here. So I stay very organized. In the spring, the new ones that come up will get trained on this bottom wire, and all of the fruit will be on the top wire. And then in the fall, I will remove all of the ones on the top that fruited, and I will shift the ones from the bottom wire up to the top, and they will fruit next year. So it's really important with these cane fruits to, and again, you can check out my videos on each of these kinds of cane fruits for more specifics, to keep them organized. I think it helps with my desire to work in the garden in the fall. If everything is starting to get a little bit more organized, I want to be out here more cleaning, tidying, making things neat. Obviously not too neat because I chop and drop everything. There's lots of leaf litter and living mulch and brown mulch, so that we're mimicking Mother Nature. But I like to have an element of organization. It makes it easier to harvest the fruit. It makes me feel more positive and productive and want to be out in the garden more. It keeps the fruit cleaner and the plant healthier, especially if you're in a small garden. So now here at the very beginning of September, all the way into the end of September, now is the time that you want to be taking charge of your cane fruit, your marionberries, your raspberries, your blackcaps, your tayberries. Now, some of your thornless blackberries may still be fruiting and you may not be able to get to them till October, but that's okay. Now is the time to start moving the garden over from the kind of chaos of late August into the rest of September and October. And that involves a lot of tidying, and I kind of think of it as, like a badger organizing her den and getting it all bedded down for the winter. Now is the time to do those things in the garden. We're starting to move into that season. I actually really enjoy it because it is a mix of still that kind of overabundant, thriving wildness, and then starting to bring a little bit of order to it. So it's really a good time. It's a time of transition. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Hope you got something out of that. If you have questions or comments about taking care of your cane fruit, please feel free and leave them in the comments. And I'll be back soon. Thanks.